Welcome to Warriors of the World. Here, the stories of the greatest warrior leaders in history come to life. Picture a time of uncertainty, when the fate of a nation hung by a thread. Amid this chaos, one man rose with unmatched courage, determination, and leadership to inspire millions. Today, we delve into the life of Winston Churchill, the leader who faced one of the darkest chapters in history and left an everlasting legacy. Winston Churchill was born in 1874 into an aristocratic family, but his childhood was far from idyllic. While he was the son of Lord Randolph Churchill, an influential British politician, and Jenny Jerome, a wealthy American, his parents were often absent. This emotional distance played a key role in shaping his determined and independent character from an early age. Churchill's fighting spirit was evident from a young age. He entered the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst, defying expectations from those who doubted his academic abilities. Against all odds, he graduated as an officer and quickly sought action in some of the most challenging missions of the British Empire. His first significant experience came in India, where he participated in campaigns against rebellious tribes. It was there that Churchill began to understand the complexities of modern warfare. In 1898, he fought in the Battle of Omdurman in Sudan, a confrontation where the power of modern military technology left his opponents at a severe disadvantage. Churchill was not only a soldier but also a chronicler. As a war correspondent, his writings provided vivid descriptions of conflicts, capturing both the horrors of war and the glories of the British Empire. These accounts not only made him famous in Britain but also revealed his ability to analyze war with strategic and insightful precision. After his successes on the battlefield and as a chronicler, Winston Churchill saw politics as a new arena to prove his worth. In 1900, at the age of 26, he won his first seat in Parliament as a member of the Conservative Party. From the start, he stood out for his sharp rhetoric and willingness to challenge the status quo. However, Churchill was a complex man, guided more by principles than by party loyalty. In 1904, he broke with the Conservatives over his opposition to protectionist policies and joined the Liberal Party. It was a bold move, but typical of his character, always ready to take risks for what he believed was right. Over the following years, Churchill held several key positions, including Home Secretary. He became known for his social reforms, such as establishing a minimum wage and regulating working conditions. While these measures earned him popularity in some quarters, they also made him a target for critics, who viewed him as unpredictable and overly ambitious. Churchill was already demonstrating the approach that would define his career, a mix of pragmatism and audacity. His ability to analyze situations with clarity, combined with his unshakable determination, was preparing him for the much greater challenges that lay ahead. When World War I broke out in 1914, Winston Churchill held the position of First Lord of the Admiralty, overseeing the Royal Navy. From this role, Churchill played a pivotal part in modernizing Britain's naval forces, anticipating that the war would be decided by control of the seas. His strategic foresight led to the development of modern ships, including the revolutionary dreadnought battleships, which redefined naval warfare. Churchill was not content to manage the Navy from London. He was deeply involved in operations. One of his most ambitious initiatives was the Gallipoli campaign in 1915. The strategy aimed to open a new front against the Ottomans and relieve pressure on Allied forces in the West. However, due to logistical failures and underestimating the enemy, the campaign ended in a disastrous defeat for British forces. The failure at Gallipoli had severe consequences for Churchill. He was removed from his position at the Admiralty, becoming a political outcast. Yet, instead of giving up, he sought redemption on the battlefield. He joined the Western Front as an army officer, leading troops in the trenches under enemy fire. This experience not only restored his confidence but also deepened his understanding of the horrors of war and the critical importance of strategic planning. World War I marked a turning point in Churchill's life. Although he faced criticism and setbacks, he emerged with lessons that would prepare him for future challenges. After World War I, Churchill entered one of the most challenging periods of his career. His shift from the Liberals back to the Conservatives, coupled with the stigma of Gallipoli, left him politically isolated. During the 1920s, he held roles such as Chancellor of the Exchequer, but his financial policies, including a controversial return to the gold standard, were widely criticized and contributed to economic strain. Despite his setbacks, Churchill never lost his voice. From the opposition benches, he began to sound the alarm about the growing threat of fascism in Europe. In the 1930s, As many British politicians advocated appeasement toward Adolf Hitler, Churchill was one of the few to openly oppose this approach, warning of the German dictator's expansionist ambitions. His speeches during this time, though often dismissed, demonstrated his ability to foresee crises and his unwavering commitment to defending freedom. During these years, Churchill also focused on writing, producing historical works and reflections on leadership and politics. These wilderness years not only solidified his reputation as an intellectual but also gave him the perspective to tackle the challenges ahead. When World War II began in 1939, Churchill's warnings were finally heeded. Although still on the political sidelines, his return to active leadership was inevitable. The storm brewing would soon place him at the forefront of Britain's fight for survival. In May 1940, as Nazi forces swept across Europe, Winston Churchill became Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. This critical moment marked the beginning of his greatest challenge, leading a nation on the brink of defeat against an apparently unstoppable enemy. Churchill knew he could not offer false promises, and in his first speech as Prime Minister, he set the tone: blood, toil, tears, and sweat. The situation was dire. France was on the verge of collapse, and the British Army, trapped at Dunkirk, faced annihilation. Yet Churchill, with a blend of boldness and pragmatism, ordered the massive evacuation of troops in Operation Dynamo, using both military and civilian vessels to rescue over 300,000 soldiers. This act not only saved lives but also became a symbol of resilience. Churchill's leadership extended beyond military strategy. He inspired an entire nation. His radio addresses combined brutal honesty with unwavering hope. In one of his most famous speeches, he declared, "We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight in the fields, we shall fight in the streets. We shall never surrender." These words unified a people enduring relentless bombing during the Blitz, the devastating German air raids on London and other cities. Churchill understood that war was fought not just on the battlefield but also in the hearts and minds of the people. As Germany sought to break Britain's spirit, he fortified the nation's morale, showing leadership that blended military strategy, diplomacy, and an unshakable belief in ultimate victory. As the war progressed, Churchill realized that victory required more than British efforts. A global alliance was essential. In 1941, following the attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States entered the war, and Churchill found a key ally in President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Their relationship, though complex, was pivotal in coordinating the military and economic resources needed to confront the Axis. Churchill also worked closely with Joseph Stalin, leader of the Soviet Union, despite deep ideological differences. Allied conferences, such as those in Tehran and Yalta, were critical moments for planning the operations that would decide the war's course. Churchill played a central role in crafting strategies like D-Day, the 1944 Normandy invasion that marked the beginning of the end of Nazi dominance in Europe. However, being part of the Grand Alliance came with challenges. Churchill fought to preserve British influence amidst the growing power of the United States and the Soviet Union. Often, his role was that of a mediator, ensuring British interests were not overlooked as critical decisions were made. On the home front, Churchill kept the British people united. His firm leadership, inspiring speeches, and clear strategic decisions reinforced his status as a symbol of resilience. Despite massive human and material losses, his ability to maintain national resolve never wavered. During this period, Churchill cemented his place not only as a military leader but also as a figure representing the global fight against tyranny. His strategic vision and ability to unite vastly different forces made it possible to confront the most devastating conflict in modern history. In 1944, the Allied strategy led by Winston Churchill, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Joseph Stalin culminated in Operation Overlord, also known as D-Day. On June 6, Allied troops landed on the beaches of Normandy in one of the most ambitious and decisive operations of World War II. Churchill, although not physically present on the battlefield, was instrumental in planning and executing the invasion. He understood that this was the first step in liberating Europe from Nazi control. The success of D-Day allowed the Allies to advance rapidly through France, liberating Paris in August 1944. For Churchill, who had long warned of the Nazi threat, it was a moment of vindication as his nation and its allies reclaimed control of the European continent. Yet, the war was far from over, and tensions within the Grand Alliance began to surface. By 1945, as Allied forces pushed into Germany and the Third Reich crumbled, Churchill faced new dilemmas. He recognized that victory would usher in a new world order, with British influence contested by the rising powers of the United States and the Soviet Union. Despite these concerns, Churchill proudly celebrated Germany's surrender on May 8, 1945, known as Victory in Europe Day, VE Day. On that day, he addressed the nation with his characteristic blend of gratitude and caution, reminding the world that the sacrifices of millions must not be forgotten. Although the war in Europe had ended, Churchill remained deeply concerned about the future. The shadow of a new threat, the Cold War, was beginning to take shape. As the Second World War drew to a close, Churchill played a key role at the Yalta Conference, where Allied leaders negotiated the post-war world order. Despite Britain's critical role in the victory, Churchill faced an uncomfortable reality. The balance of power was shifting rapidly. The United States and the Soviet Union were emerging as superpowers, relegating the United Kingdom to a secondary position. In July 1945, while attending the Potsdam Conference, Churchill faced an unexpected defeat in the general election. Despite his wartime leadership, the British people elected the Labour Party, which promised sweeping social and economic reforms in a country ravaged by conflict. Churchill, stunned and deeply hurt, stepped down as Prime Minister but did not retire from politics. Nevertheless, his influence remained undeniable. In 1946, during a speech in Fulton, Missouri, Churchill popularized the term Iron Curtain, warning the world about Soviet expansion and the division of Europe. This speech symbolically marked the start of the Cold War and solidified Churchill as a key voice in international politics. Despite his political setbacks, Winston Churchill remained a central figure in world history. His strategic vision and ability to inspire during the darkest moments had made him a symbol of resilience and leadership. Você diz. Agora 9 e 10 lembrando do desfecho lembrando o espectador para curtir o video compartilhar ativar o sininho se torna membro e compartilhar, e se despedir dizendo, a próxima campanha aqui nos guerreiros do mundo. In 1951, at the age of 77, Winston Churchill returned as Prime Minister, reaffirming his place as a central figure in British politics. This second term was marked by a focus on rebuilding Britain's economy and preserving the United Kingdom's influence in a rapidly changing world. Although he no longer had the energy of his wartime years, Churchill remained a revered leader, driven by his experience and deep commitment to global stability. During this period, Churchill worked to strengthen relations with the United States and manage the tensions of the Cold War. Despite his efforts, Britain's position on the world stage continued to decline compared to the rising powers of the Soviet Union and the United States. However, Churchill never lost sight of his primary goal, ensuring a secure future for his country and fostering European unity. Beyond his political life, Churchill left a significant cultural and literary legacy. In 1953, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature for his memoirs and speeches, capturing the essence of his leadership and the critical moments of his life. His writings not only documented history but inspired generations of leaders and citizens. Although he resigned from office in 1955 due to health issues, Churchill remained an icon. His ability to lead through adversity and his vision of the world cemented him as one of the most influential figures of the 20th century. Winston Churchill passed away on January 24, 1965, at the age of 90, leaving behind an irreplaceable void. His funeral, the largest ever held for a British citizen, brought together world leaders and millions of people to honor a man who embodied the fight for freedom and democracy. Churchill's legacy extends far beyond his accomplishments as a military strategist or politician. His life represents the importance of resilience, the ability to face challenges, and the determination to never give up. From his speeches that united a nation to his writings that captured history's most critical moments, Churchill continues to inspire leaders and dreamers worldwide. Today, as we look back on his life, his example reminds us that even in the darkest moments, courage and vision can change the course of history. Thank you for joining us on this captivating journey through the life of Winston Churchill. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, share it with your friends, and consider becoming a member of our channel. Which part of Churchill's life impressed you the most? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until the next campaign here on Warriors of the World.